you joining me this morning for 10 minutes of morning calm. Just an overall thank you for you folks for tuning in. We have people who tune in from all over the country. We deeply appreciate it. We know a lot of folks watch later in the week or later in the day, which is wonderful. Again, we have real healthy numbers around this, which tells you that there's a community that's formed that matters. And so, thank you, folks, for being part of it. In times like this, where frankly for me it can feel so unmoored and so challenging and so hard to be doing this church thing, it's wonderful to have parts of life where it's like, oh yeah, this church thing works in these different formats. So thank you. And to get started, folks, I want to talk about the struggle with anxiety and despair. That's what we're looking at today. We're looking at this line from the Bible, and it's a piece of New Church Live, excuse me, of Christian New Church Bible commentary. Do not be afraid, Abram, said God. I am a shield to you. Beautiful line there. And it said, do not be afraid. You've heard many times, number one command in the Bible is do not be afraid. And then Emanuel Swedenborg asks us to think of this anxiety and despair that really creates this need for God to tell us to not be afraid, and to really look at that as part of our spiritual work. This is what he offers. Anyone who's being tested, in other words, going through temptation, becomes anxious, and the anxiety causes a state of despair of the outcome. The actual struggle is nothing else. Now, there's an interesting part to that. And today probably go a little bit longer because I think this is important to flesh out. So here's the event, the thing that we consider the temptation or the challenge or whatever. Now, some of those times with the temptation, the event, the challenge, and again, literally think sometimes it's a temptation, like do I pick up that drink? Sometimes it's an event, like a bad medical diagnosis, whatever it might be. A lot of the time, that event is just the event. It is hard to change. The event is the event is the event. And it would be great if we could shape all those events and control all those events, but that we don't get to do. That's oftentimes, and we get to choose whether to pick up the drink or not, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of the time, we don't actually control the event that is causing anxiety and despair. It just is what it is. And the fascinating part about this concept here that Swedenborg's asking us to think about from a spiritual perspective, and I think it's a valuable way to do it, is to understand that, okay, and over here we have the anxiety and the despair. And the anxiety and despair, that can be a temptation in and of itself outside of the event. So here's the event, here's the anxiety and despair. And the struggle oftentimes is over here, not over here, which is significant. I think that should be one that should be like, oh, hadn't thought of it that way, because I know I certainly don't think of it that way. I think that, of course, I have to be anxious. Of course, I have to despair because of the event. And no, not necessarily so. Now, that isn't to say there should be a guilt trip around anxiety and despair. I don't think we control that. But can we get that anxiety and despair create their own temptation and their own rabbit hole? And when we go down that rabbit hole, there's a lot of challenges. Let me just put it to you this way, folks. How many challenges, how many problems in your life have been made better because you chose anxiety and despair? How many challenges have been solved because you chose anxiety and despair? I think you know where I'm coming from here. Like almost none. Like anxiety and despair are not interested in solving problems because they are from hell. And that emotion, when it goes too far, is just leads us down a rabbit hole that has nothing to offer us there. And again, for the 100th time, I don't want to say like anxiety and despair, horrible, don't do it. It's just it's part of the human condition. But consider it an invitation to maybe try things a little differently. And again, very humbly would offer this. These are anxieties and despair is something I think most, if not all of us, wrestle with in certain ways. So how is it that we do this? Well, I think first off, first simple step is if it is a problem that can be solved, solve it. Like just solve it. I think there's a lot of the time where we can get stuck in a problem and we get stuck in the anxiety and despair. We don't actually move on with the solution. That may sound simplistic, but I know I've certainly done that a few times, and sort of, what are you going to do about it? Like what's the step you can take today to start to work towards that? Knowing sometimes there is none. I should add that as a caveat as well. And then the other part, folks, is to keep coming back when you're in an anxiety and despair place. Keep coming back to keeping first things recognizably first. I read this and I actually put it up online a couple of days ago. This is from Frederick Lewis Donaldson, and it's where the seven deadly sins that Gandhi wrote about come from. It's beautiful, beautiful little line here talking about balance. He said they come from these, the seven deadly sins: wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, religion without sacrifice, politics without principle. And so, first things recognizably first. Again, you can go back a couple of days to see a post on this. If we stay on the right side of that equation, of it's about coming back to, okay, what work can I do here? What role can conscience play? How can I appeal to the better angels of my nature, aka character? What's morally the right thing to do? How do I serve humanity here? How does sacrifice show up? Like, what am I having to give up that will be healthy to give up? And what are the principles I'm willing to stand by? So think work, conscience, character, morality, humanity, sacrifice, principle. The antidotes to the seven deadly sins there. And folks, like we think about that and we think, imagine that, and that can kind of turn us away from this anxiety and despair, because it clearly starts to ground us in much, much bigger things, keeping first things recognizably first. So the takeaway here, my friends, is pretty simple. Like, just be aware, right, that for all of us, right, anxiety and despair can become its own racket. We get way too much into that. Literally, it can become a rabbit hole. And we need to do our best to fight that. And again, a lot of people work with pastors and therapists and friends to do that. And I think we kind of need other people to help us to get out of it and help us to move forward. And then the second part is, again, think about, okay, so I'm going to breathe. I get that this is a temptation to give into anxiety and despair. Anxiety and despair have solved nothing. What might help with solutions, what might help is work, conscience, character, morality, humanity, sacrifice, and principle. So come back to, and always remember, keep first things recognizably first. So that is the thought for today, dear friends. And what we're going to do now is we're going to shift gears. We're going to shift gears here into a meditation, a prayer, and a blessing. And then we'll say hi to folks on social media, and then close with a little last word about financial stuff here at New Church Live. So, friends, let's all start out with just taking a big breath. And a prayer bell. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little cheery hello here. Try to find my phone. Let's give a little cheery hello to those people who were able to join us online today, and I hope everyone is doing well as we launch into our week ahead here. Oh, totally messed that one up. Okay, hold on. Back to scratch here. All right. We'll Jerry Low over here. Scratch here. Marcus, good morning to you. And choice can be a blessing or a curse. It's all how we see it. Perspective is something else, huh? And it really is, Marcus. Like just so it's so interesting how life really becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, and how I've experienced over and over again that you take two people, the exact same life event, and they both see it radically differently, which gives a very different idea of what truth is, and that's why we have to be careful if we feel that we truly know a situation, because what we really truly know is our perspective on the situation, and the situation itself might be something far different. So that is a great reminder there. And now flipping over to any more comments we might have, but we got a bunch over here. All right. Roland, good morning. Roland, so good morning to you. And it's Roland, so good to see you, buddy. Always great to have you joining us. Roland is a student I taught way back in the day up at Pocono Mountain, who has done great. Very proud of everything he's done. Linda, good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Kim, good morning. Agree with you. Good morning, everyone. Tina writes, thank you, Chuck, and you are welcome. And Kim, I needed to hear this today. Great to hear from you, Kim. Martha, good morning to you, my Michigan friend, and my dear buddy, Beth. Great to see you joining us, and good morning to you, Beth, and give my best to your wonderful family. So, friends, that's what we have today. I hope you're all doing really well. Anxiety and despair are going to happen. Just don't go down that rabbit hole. Keep coming back to first things first. And now a little note about help with New Church Live, and wishing you folks all the best. Like our content? It's funded by viewers like you. Please consider becoming a sustaining supporter of New Church Live today. Take care, dear friends. God bless.